It's been over 3 months since Prince Harry last spoke to King Charles, despite public claims suggesting otherwise. The palace, uncharacteristically blunt, has confirmed that communication has ceased entirely, not just with the king, but with Prince William and Catherine as well. This isn't about one fight, it's about a years-long erosion of trust. Every new public appearance, every carefully placed interview, and every Netflix announcement has chipped away at what little remained of their private ties. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. For Charles, who spent decades managing image and discretion, the latest breaches made one thing unavoidable. Lines had to be drawn, and Harry's position inside the royal family is no longer tenable. This permanent distancing isn't rooted in anger, it's built on exhaustion. The monarchy survives on credibility and loyalty, and Harry and Meghan's repeated use of family moments as media content turned reconciliation into a liability. The Sussexes may have hoped for renewed relevance through health crises or sympathy waves, but the strategy backfired. With King Charles reportedly in stable health, the illusion of urgency has faded, revealing just how conditional those reconciliation efforts really were. What remains now is the aftermath, quiet, cold, and final. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. King Charles has officially shut the door. Not halfway, not cracked open, slammed, bolted, and sealed. Sources close to the palace say it's done trying, done hoping, and done pretending that a reconciliation with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is even remotely possible. The trust? Gone. The relationship? Dismantled. The roles they once had within the royal family? Permanently revoked. It's not a PR bluff, either. Behind-the-scenes conversations, according to insiders, are more brutal than what's leaked to the press. Charles reportedly told aides that trust has been irreparably damaged. And in royal terms, that's not just harsh, it's terminal. The tone from Buckingham Palace is no longer neutral. It's final. They are not entertaining more drama, no matter how many times Harry flies in for symbolic hugs or camera-ready smiles. Harry, for his part, is not letting go of the narrative. He's still talking, still trying to reframe things in interviews, still working angles that hint at open communication and emotional connection. But here's the thing, palace officials are refuting those claims flat out. According to them, Harry hasn't spoken to his father since September. There's no regular contact, no real-time check-ins, nothing close to reconciliation. The same goes for William and Catherine. The rift isn't cold, it's radioactive. And the last time Harry tried to push for a photo-op reunion, it went nowhere. The palace sees every headline, every subtle media play, and every sympathetic press push. And they're not buying it, because what they remember is a pattern, accusations, public leaks, and a repeated betrayal of trust disguised as telling his truth. And then there's Meghan. Her position has only amplified the tension. Behind the scenes, her estrangement from her own father mirrors the fractures in Harry's royal relationships. The pattern of disconnection, of breaking ties with family members and spinning it as self-preservation, feels eerily familiar on both sides. Meghan's family drama has been tabloid fuel for years. But in the context of the royal split, it adds another layer. It's not just one relationship gone sour. It's a recurring story of burned bridges. With Thomas Markle, there's no repair. Just like Harry with his father now. The optics are unmistakable, and the palace reads it all as part of the same larger problem. A refusal to compromise, to protect privacy, or to honor family loyalty. At the center of it all is a Sussex PR machine, still pushing out a glossy version of events. Interviews, podcasts, Netflix deals. They've thrown every medium at the wall hoping something sticks. But when you scratch the surface, the foundation's crumbling. Their attempt to control the narrative have grown increasingly desperate. One insider said it's become more about salvaging brand value than rebuilding family ties. Take the now infamous Cookie Queen's documentary pitch, supposed to be wholesome. Instead, it was torn apart for contradictions. A couple publicly advocating for kids' safety on social media, while simultaneously promoting a docuseries about girls' online baking content. It was another PR flop that made people question their motives and, more importantly, their... Back in the UK, Prince William and Princess Catherine aren't just staying quiet, they are staying strategic. The lack of response isn't apathy. It's intentional. After Harry claimed that William physically attacked him, the family drew a firm line. Not responding was a way to contain the explosion, not ignore it. Every interaction now is weighed with caution. Will this leak? Will it be misquoted? Can it be turned into content? That's the kind of second-guessing that has defined this fallout. And when you factor in the emotional stakes, brothers who once walked behind a mother's coffin together, this silence feels less like avoidance and more like sad photos. The emotional weight isn't lost on anyone. Catherine, who was once considered a calming presence in royal tensions, is now completely removed from anything Sussex-related. Insiders say she has no contact with Harry and Meghan. None. And after all the interviews and accusations, she's reportedly not interested in reopening wounds. Her name was dragged into Meghan's Oprah interview. Her character was debated by strangers. And when someone's dignity becomes tabloid fodder, even the kindest people pull away. Catherine's sadness isn't loud, but it's visible. And behind palace walls, there's no appetite to force forgiveness. Meanwhile, the Sussexes continue to operate from the outside looking in. They've lost Frogmore Cottage. They are not welcome at official events. And according to insiders, the idea of Harry ever returning to Royal Lodge or any residence with proximity to royal power isn't even on the table anymore. When Harry flew in for King Charles's cancer diagnosis earlier this year, some believed it was a sign, a final shot at redemption. But it turns out it was too little, too late. The king was cordial, but detached. Sources say it was a 30-minute meeting. No follow-up. No royal invitation extended. Just a polite, procedural check-in with no emotional depth. The larger royal institution has adapted. There's a recalibration happening, one where Harry and Meghan are no longer considered assets. They are not in the fold. And beyond personal emotion, this is about credibility. The monarchy, for all its flaws, thrives on stability and discretion. Harry brought volatility and headlines. That's not a legacy the firm wants to preserve. Palace staff and aides aren't dancing around the issue anymore. The public line is unity, but the private line is protection. The door isn't just closed, it's guarded. Re-entry would require a level of trust that no one believes Harry can currently offer. Meghan's professional pivot hasn't helped the perception problem. Her deals with Spotify fell through. Her Netflix brand is shaky. And while she's still trying to position herself as a lifestyle authority and media voice, the traction just isn't there. When every project turns into a lightning rod for critique, it's no longer just about haters. It's about consistency. The public has grown skeptical of the gap between messaging and behavior. And for someone who once said she was choosing peace, her media footprint suggests otherwise. Ironically, the person who now shares more photo headlines with Harry isn't William or Charles. It's Prince Andrew, not in a good way. Media outlets continue to draw parallels between how the palace handled Andrew's scandal versus how it's dealing with the Sussex fallout. But here's the difference. Andrew was sidelined, removed from public duties. But he kept his mouth shut. He didn't go on a press tour. He didn't film a documentary. And for the palace, silence is still preferable to chaos. That contrast only makes Harry's trajectory look worse. Harry and Meghan's decision to commodify the royal experience didn't just rub the family the wrong way. It destabilized the entire institution. Every private moment turned into content. Every grievance became a headline. The memoir, the interviews, the docuseries, each one deepened the chasm. Instead of healing old wounds, they poured salt in them and then asked the public to understand their pain. The issue isn't just what they said, it's how they chose to say it. On camera, for money, with carefully crafted narratives. The royal family operates on discretion and dignity. Harry and Meghan banked on transparency and turmoil, and the contradiction was never going to hold. King Charles might still carry emotional weight for his son. No one's denying that. Sources close to the monarch say there's still paternal affection. But that affection doesn't extend to trust, or to duty, or to titles. Charles has drawn a sharp line between personal emotion and institutional obligation, and Harry no longer qualifies on either side. That's why the response has been so unapologetically cold. Not cruel, not vengeful, just resolute. The king reportedly told aides that there's no intention to make room for Harry or Meghan in the monarchy's future plans. No soft re-entry. No private job offers. They're officially out. Meghan's current public-facing moves suggest a pivot, but it's hard to ignore the lingering fallout. Her attempts to rebrand into lifestyle and children's content haven't taken hold. The Archetypes podcast lost momentum. The Netflix content pipeline stalled. And when she's not directly addressing the royal family, she's still clearly operating in its shadow. Observers have noted that despite all the declarations of independence, she and Harry are still tightly tethered to the royal narrative. It's what made them famous. It's what gives their commentary weight. But it's also what's holding them back. Because the further they go down this path, the less believable their claims of moving on become. Harry, more than anyone, is stuck in the middle. His latest moves, statements about King Charles's health, subtle interview barbs, odd reunion hints, they all point to a man trying to have it both ways. He wants the emotional closeness of a son, but he doesn't want to give up the spotlight he created for himself outside the family. And that's a contradiction that's tearing things apart. He claims to want privacy, but continues to give interviews. He says he respects the monarchy, but published a book dragging nearly every senior royal. He speaks of healing while reopening wounds on an international stage. It's not just confusing, it's exhausting. Within the royal household, the mood has shifted. There's less sadness, more pragmatism. Staff no longer tiptoe around the Harry question. His not coming back, not to working roles, not to state events, not to any future planning. His presence is no longer required, and honestly, not even preferred. The royal family doesn't just value loyalty, they depend on it. And when someone breaks that unwritten code, they don't get warnings. They get exiled. And what's shocking is that the family isn't even trying to hide it anymore. The firm has moved on, even if the press sad photos. As for Catherine, her silence continues to speak volumes. Her recent public appearances, poised, composed, but notably distanced from royal family drama, send a message. She's not engaging. She's not reacting. She's focused on duty. And behind the calm exterior, insiders say she's closed off emotionally from the Sussexes for good. There was a time when people speculated she might be the bridge, the peacemaker. But after being dragged through interview narratives and seeing her family pulled into public battles, that idea has vanished. Now, it's self-protection. Not just for her, but for her children. Because every interaction with Harry and Meghan risks becoming a headline, and that's a price she's not willing to pay. The physical exile from royal properties mirrors the emotional one. Harry and Meghan were officially asked to vacate Frogmore Cottage earlier this year. A clear message, this is no longer your home. And with no other royal residence offered in its place, the tone was unmistakable. Your presence is neither needed nor welcome. Even when Harry visited the UK earlier this year, he didn't stay at any royal property. There was no open-door policy, no casual drop-ins, just a series of controlled, impersonal encounters. If any, the distance is geographical now, not just emotional. And Prince William is done talking, is done engaging. The betrayal, especially after Harry's claims of physical confrontation, was a final straw. Sources close to William say he doesn't even entertain the idea of reconciliation anymore. Not because he's angry, because it's realistic. He sees a pattern. The accusations, the selective truths, the media spins, and he knows that any interaction, no matter how small, will be twisted. That's not a brotherly bond, that's a media risk. And with the responsibility of the future crown on his shoulders, William doesn't have the luxury of sentimentalism. Queen Camilla's role in this saga has been understated, but her influence is real. After being personally targeted in Harry's memoir, she has reportedly drawn a hard boundary. She supports King Charles's position, not just as wife, but as someone who understands the cost of public scrutiny. She's not interested in a redemption arc for the Sussexes. She's seen how their narratives shift, how easily their words pivot depending on audience, and she has no desire to be part of that ecosystem. For Camilla, the choice is clear. Protect the monarchy, not placate the exiled. As of now, Harry and Meghan are left navigating a space they created, but can't control. Their media strategy is no longer inspiring sympathy, it's inviting scrutiny. Their brand isn't synonymous with change anymore. It's tangled in contradiction. And here's where things get brutal. Even their supporters are growing tired. The repeated narrative of truth-telling starts to feel hollow when it comes packaged in production deals and monetized trauma. The public doesn't want a sequel. They want closure. And the palace seems to want the same. There's something sobering about watching an institution built on tradition outmaneuver two people who thought they could out-mediate. The royal family doesn't speak often, but when they do, it's calculated. The silence around Harry and Meghan is deafening not because it's quiet, but because it's so pointed. Every absence, every non-invitation, every cold shoulder is loaded. The message from the firm has crystallized. You had your chance, and you spent it making documentaries. Now, there's no place for you here, not in the halls of Buckingham Palace, not on the guest list of royal events, not even in the private text threads of your former inner circle. You made your choice, and the door is quietly shut behind you. Harry's been trying to force that door back open ever since. With subtle nods in interviews, with vague comments about my family and reaching out. But none of it lands. Not with the press, not with the public, and definitely not with the royals. When someone publicly accuses their own brother of assault, it's hard to bounce back to Christmas lunch like nothing happened. He tried to pivot his image after Spare came out. From whistleblower to wounded son. From rebellious prince to misunderstood father. But the truth is, even those closest to him reportedly don't know which version of Harry they're going to get. The one who wants peace, or the one who wants press. And if you can't tell which one's walking through the door, the easiest solution is to keep the door closed. Meghan has faced a different kind of reckoning. While Harry battles ghosts of the monarchy, she's wrestling with a fading spotlight. The rebrand into content creator and lifestyle mogul hasn't quite taken off. Every new venture is met with a collective side-eye. Not because she's not allowed to move on, but because she won't stop referencing the very thing she claims to have escaped. And when you leave a family claiming you want peace, but keep producing content rooted in that family's drama, people start asking questions. Like, what's the real goal here? Advocacy or attention? Healing or headlines? The contradiction is no longer just a PR problem. It's a foundation of public mistrust. Back at the top, King Charles isn't playing into any of it. Despite earlier speculation that his cancer diagnosis might bring Harry back into the fold, that fantasy fizzled fast. Charles met with Harry once, briefly, and never again. No palace sleepovers. No emotional reunions. And crucially, no talk of reinstating roles or renewing trust. If anything, Charles' health update only made things clearer. He's not dying. He's not desperate. And is certainly not inviting chaos back into the monarchy. This wasn't the hallmark moment. It was a test. One Harry failed by thinking proximity would translate to sad photos. Catherine has retreated entirely from the Sussex sphere. And who could blame her? After being named in Meghan's interviews, after having her private moments dissected, after watching her own husband dragged through the media, it's no longer about protocol. It's about protection. For herself, for her children, for her future role. There's no olive branch from Kensington Palace. Just silence. When Catherine shows up in public now, it's with purpose. Not a glance toward the drama. Not a whisper of a truce. She said everything she needs to say without speaking a word. And that silence, it's louder than anything Harry's published. The couple's recent media moves feel like they're chasing ghosts. They are trying to recapture the energy of their Oprah interview, but the public mood has shifted. Back then, they were seen as brave. Now, it's a lot murkier, a lot more complicated. People aren't as quick to accept one-sided narratives, especially when those narratives come with seven-figure deals. Even the platform providers, Spotify, Netflix, and the rest, have cooled. Their content underperforms. Their brand has plateaued. And as the royal drama grows colder, so does the interest. They may have bet on endless outrage, but the public can only stay mad for so long before they move on to the next scandal. And that might be the most painful twist of all, not being hated, but being irrelevant. Because at the height of the fallout, Harry and Meghan were everywhere. They were the royal rebels, the global darlings of daytime TV, the couple with the receipts. But now, they're just not news anymore. Not in the way they were. Sure, headlines still pop up, but they are no longer the cultural event they used to be. They are not shocking, they are predictable. Not urgent, they are tired. The energy has shifted, and the narrative has caught up. You can only cry wolf so many times before the audience stops listening. Camilla, who once endured her own decades-long PR nightmare, has stayed quiet but observant. She's not speaking to the media, not issuing statements. But insiders say she's a firm supporter of the king's stance. Especially after Harry's direct attacks on her character, there's no desire to forgive and forget. Her loyalty to Charles runs deep. And after being painted as a villain in Harry's story, she has no patience for manufactured redemption arcs. If Charles is out, she's out. And in a monarchy that runs on loyalty, her behind-the-scenes influence carries more weight than most people realize. As for William and Catherine, their strategy is clear: survive the scandal by outlasting it. They are not firing back. They are not reacting publicly. And that, ironically, has protected them more than any statement could have. Because the longer they stay silent, the more Harry and Meghan's outbursts seem like noise. That restraint is working. Public opinion in the UK remains solidly on their side. Internationally, too, there's growing respect for their refusal to participate in the circus. William isn't rushing to defend himself, because he doesn't need to. The lack of response says it all. He's already moved on. So where does that leave the Sussexes now? On the outside, trying to get back in, but with no invitation coming. The family has made peace with the fracture. There's no longer a frantic effort to patch things up. No secret meetings. No PR statements about healing. Just quiet, confident distance. And for the monarchy, that's survival. You don't last 1,000 years by getting caught up in every scandal. You survive by choosing legacy over noise, duty over drama. And that's exactly what they are doing now. The tragedy here isn't just royal, it's personal. Harry didn't just lose titles or residences. He lost a brother, a father, a family that once stood behind him on the world stage. And whether or not you believe he brought it on himself, the truth is, there's no going back. The damage isn't just done, it's historic. For a man who once walked behind his mother's coffin with the weight of a nation watching, the idea that he now walks alone is almost poetic. Not because he had to, but because every step toward the spotlight seemed to take him further away from home. And now, the silence from Buckingham Palace is louder than any of his interviews. Because sometimes, the most devastating response isn't anger, it's indifference. If you're still following this royal unraveling, tell us, can this ever be fixed? Or is the crown done pretending? Drop your thoughts below. And if you're just as fascinated by the chaos as we are, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's next. There's always another twist. Always another fallout. And you better believe we'll be here to break it down.